realize that your white parent should have never...
Sadly, I didn't realize my white parents shouldn't have had black kids until I was older. I had a friend at the time call me out, tell me I was brainwashed and biased against myself, and I can't just listen to my parents. So I got on YouTube and found many videos, but one of the videos I found shook me so hard to the core that I showed my mom. The video was of a black lady who was going to school to pick up her kid, and a white lady took her parking spot, and she pulled over to talk to her about it because she was pregnant, 6-7 months pregnant, you could see. And as soon as the white lady got out of the car, she was so aggressive and abrasive with her. Police get called, as they do in almost every situation like that. And the black lady's filming, it's from her perspective. And when the police get there, they're so rude and abrasive. They don't want to hear anything she has to say, only care about what the white lady has to say. And then when the black lady is getting defensive because there's all these people against her and she's pregnant, they get hostile with her and put her in handcuffs. And you just hear her screaming. She's just down on the ground with her hands behind her back as they're putting her in handcuffs, and she's just begging them, please, pick me up, I'm pregnant, please, you're hurting my baby, don't hurt my baby, please, you're hurting me, you're hurting my baby. And when that video ended, my mom had the audacity to look at me and say that that was her fault, that she should have de-escalated that situation and maybe even never approached that woman. My mom did not see that woman as a human being, she saw that woman as black. When you're adopted, it's hard sometimes to feel connected to the outside family, like the cousins and aunts and uncles, especially when you're from a diverse background. My grandma used the N-word until my mom finally asked her to stop. So sometimes you feel like you only have your parents, and then you get to adulthood and you realize they don't see anybody who looks like you as human. They have no awareness of the things that you have to go through on a daily basis, and they have no care to. And when you bring up issues, very real issues to them, they tell you that those are your own experiences and you're looking for them. Needless to say, those aren't the only reasons why my parents shouldn't have been given children, but I think it's the main one.
She wanted to lay my edges.
I don't think adoption is inherently unethical. I don't think transracial adoption should be banned. And I don't regret being adopted. But I think it's important to critically analyze the adoption system, especially if you're a white parent adopting a non-white child. You can go into adoption for all the right reasons, with love and a desire to start a family, and you can also still be participating in a flawed system. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. It's important to recognize that you will knowingly create a dynamic in your family where you will have white privilege and your child will not. I know plenty of people have talked about how colorblindness is a really detrimental way to talk about race, and this is just another example of that. Telling your child that you don't think of them any differently because they look different from you is not helpful. Race and ethnicity are a fundamental aspect of our identities that we can't change and we're always going to be aware of on some level. Ignoring that is harmful.
Americans arrested for trying to take 33 children out of Haiti without permission could now face prosecution. Haitian officials say they are thinking of sending the group to the U.S., hoping to quickly resolve the case while sending a message to child trafficking.
I got tagged in this a ton because, believe it or not, that thread is a foster parent. And of course, all the normal reactions of course it's your job and you're a parent, what are you doing? But I also think this plays to the bigger issue of somehow, some way in our society, we've decided that once you're a teenager, we're done. Parents check out at 14, 15. Teachers are they're in their last year or two of school, whatever. As society, we arrest them and put them on trial as adults when they're 16, 17 years old. And we forget that teenagers still need parents. Their brain is still developing. Their emotions are still developing. They're still becoming who they are. And so we forget that, yeah, an 18-year-old does need a confidant and a parent. And as a foster parent, yeah, that's your job.
Something people claim doesn't make sense about my story is, why would racist people adopt a multiracial child? And the funny thing is, the reason that they did that are two reasons that adoption is fucked up, but that people don't want to talk about, especially on this app. Like, these are conversations that people are like, no. So here we go. The reasons my racist parents adopted me. 1, whatever you believe, whatever you went into this conversation thinking, we charge money for babies in America. And we charge money for them based on their race. My parents, despite having more money than my first mom, didn't have very much money at all. And so a multiracial baby was cheaper and therefore in their price range. When you are desperate for a baby, you're willing to make concessions like she might come out a little dark, you know? Especially when that concession is going to save you $5 to $10 grand. That's a big deal. The second reason that my racist parents adopted me is because they were desperate and I was readily available. There was a whole under the table situation, but my mom had a ectopic pregnancy and they told her she would never be able to get pregnant again. And she was devastated, rightly so. But instead of mourning and grieving and going to therapy and healing that loss, she thought that she could fix the loss and reverse the grief by buying somebody else's baby and raising that baby as hers. But that doesn't work because she didn't want somebody else's baby. She didn't want my first mom's baby. She wanted her baby. But she wasn't going to get that. So because her infertility trauma wasn't healed, because she was so desperate to be a mom, she was willing again to make those concessions, like not a fully white baby, which again would have been cheaper as well. They couldn't afford to go international and find a not mixed child. They couldn't afford to emotionally sit and save their money and buy the child they wanted later. America sets babies up to be hurt. My mom was set up to resent me. They told her she would love me the same. They told her it would feel the same. They told her it would heal her trauma, the loss of her baby. They told her that. And it didn't. And so when it didn't, guess who she took it out on? It was me. It was me.
Let's talk about Zadie's hair because it tends to be a hot topic and really it's honestly a comeback story. See, look right here. Last year, Zadie had to have an emergency surgery when she was 4 months old, literally a year ago around this time. After that, a lot of her hair fell out. She was on a lot of hard medications and just, it happens with a lot of babies, period. And she lost more. It got really thin. I did a ton of research. We started using new products and a bonnet more often with deep conditioners. Now we are here, which you will see is a huge, huge difference. I mean, holy cow, it's a big difference. So her hair is not matted, it's actually really conditioned. So, you know.
Try to avoid me, but baby, you gon' see. You can never outrun a crazy bitch like me. What they call me? Yes, I'm that bitch. Heard you fuck that girl, now.
Hi, so 3 to 4 years ago, my husband and I actually considered adopting internationally from Korea. And our decision quickly took a 180 after doing some research. So what we uncovered was the history of adoption within South Korea, which it was started in the 1950s, so that's not that long ago, and it was started because of the Korean War. The most critical part of our decision to not adopt from South Korea was listening to adoptee stories. So while I had a really good upbringing, so many others did not. So my good, which is really an arbitrary descriptor, upbringing does not cancel out that I still experienced trauma. I was still stripped from my culture. I still had identity issues because of my proximity to American culture and whiteness. I didn't feel Asian enough. Part 2 is next.
Yeah, that actually has been my experience too. This is the rule. When you call out a white woman on doing or saying something racist, she will find a way to make herself the victim in that scenario. And yeah, there are exceptions to that rule. And of course, a lot of white women don't say or do things that they need to be called out on. So this year, I'm celebrating my 18th year being a transracial adoptive parent. As a lot of you know, my daughters are Black. And a lot of the challenges with transracial adoption, you can anticipate. Oh, I'm going to have to learn how to do the hair, cultural issues, whatever. But some of the challenges were a surprise. And that rule is one that I did not anticipate. Example, a few years ago at school, one of my daughters was racially bullied by one of her female classmates. When it came to light and the girl got in trouble, this is how the mom reacted. First, it was, nah, she didn't do that. Second was, well, she did it, but she didn't mean anything by it. And third, my daughter is really depressed. She won't eat or come out of her room. Could you have your daughter call and check on her to see if she's okay?
This bitch think I'm stupid.
In the 3rd grade, when my parents built their mega mansion in the gated community we lived in, the neighbors across the street actually sold their house and moved 6 houses up the street. I thought it was because our yard wasn't done. They didn't like how it looked. In the 6th grade, I got my first set of box braids. Everybody on my basketball team thought that was great because I can intimidate the other team. I thought they meant because I was tall. In the 7th grade, I had a teacher tell me that when she started working at that school, they never let kids like me in, and they still shouldn't let kids like me in. I thought she was talking about my ADHD. Fucking spring break every year and coming back to the arm test. In the 8th grade, there was 3 kids that poked holes in Kleenexes and ran around saying that they were the KKK. The teacher found out, made me come to the front of the class, and made everybody apologize to me. I had no clue why they were apologizing to me. In the 10th grade, I was part of a small singing group, and we actually sang a spiritual, all white kids and me, and they would put me in the middle every single time. I thought it was because I had the best voice. In the 5 minutes that they taught Black history in our history class, I asked why they didn't teach us about Malcolm X. The response was, we don't teach Malcolm X because we don't want anyone getting any ideas. I had no idea who they were talking about or who they were talking to.
The average cost of private adoption ranges between $20,000 to $40,000. The average cost of foster to adopt ranges between $0 to $3,000 depending upon your state. This does not include some minor out-of-pocket expenses such as fire inspections and paying for your child's new birth certificate. Through Foster to Adopt, you can qualify for something called adoptions assistance. This is a monetary stipend provided by the state to assist with care of the child until they're 18. Not everyone qualifies. We didn't, because our son was highly likely to be adopted because he was under the age of 3 and he was a white baby boy. This often goes to persons that adopt siblings, children of color, and children with mental or physical disabilities. Additionally, through Foster to Adopt, there's so many things that are priceless, such as support system with other foster parents, the opportunity for your child to go to college for free, you can look that up, and possibly already having a working relationship with some of the birth family members. Adoption is just awesome.
Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey-oh, hey-oh, hey-oh. Stay close. I died every day waiting for you, darling, don't be afraid.
One of the most common questions we get asked as a family with 9, sometimes 10 kids is how many bedrooms we have. First up is our 2 8-year-old boys who share the smallest bedroom in the house. We have had one other twin-size bed in here as needed. Next up is our preteen girl room where the drama is real. We have 3 beds and an extra bed just in case another child needs a home or a stay for a few days. Next room is our little girl's room. Ironically, it has the biggest bed of all. And our 3-year-old's dresser, which has some clothes on it that I need to take care of. The little girls are 5, 6, and 6. And a crib in our room that's never been used, a king-size bed where we sleep and our 3-year-old sleeps, and the toddler bed that he pretends he wants to sleep in but never does.
Whether you're aggressively drunk, methed out, or just plain annoying, we're gonna tie you down.
This is 16-year-old Cornelius Fredericks.
Cornelius was a foster youth who, after going through several traumatic experiences, was placed at Lakeside Academy in Michigan. In spring of 2020, after Cornelius threw a sandwich at the lunch table, several Lakeside Academy staff decided to restrain him on the ground. As his peers were eating lunch, several fully grown adults decided to lay across Cornelius's chest as several staff, including a nurse, stood and watched. They restrained Corn for nearly 8 minutes on the ground, and there is video footage of this incident. I implore you to do more research into how dangerous restraints can be and to please listen to survivors. Cornelius deserved better.
Okay, it's my monthly stipend for fostering, and yep, $395 for the month. So over 100 of that will go towards food, another 50 for pull-ups and wipes and diapers. He needs a new haircut, so that's another 20, and he needs a pair of snow boots, so probably like 30. Oh, and he's starting swim lessons, so that's 45. And I need more gas so I can take them to school every day and visits and therapy. We're also running low on shampoo and toothpaste. Oh, and he was invited to that birthday party at the jump place. That's another 20 plus a gift. And I want to get him a Valentine's Day gift and Valentine's for his class. And there goes the stipend, but he deserves all of it.
All right, do you want to take a bath or a shower tonight? Oh, honey. It's okay. We don't have to. It's okay. Come on, let's go talk. Come on. Are you okay? Okay, don't worry about it. We don't have to take a bath or a shower tonight. Let's just go to the kitchen sink and wash up. We do have to be clean. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that last night I was trying to get Jessica into the bath or shower and she refused. She had a panic attack and we washed up at the kitchen sink instead. Is there any history of sensory issues, abuse, maybe something scary happened? Do you have any idea? Let me show you how it works. So this is gonna turn the water on. Do you wanna help? Do you wanna turn it on? And then this is the drain. So it's gonna make a weird noise and the water is gonna go down, but don't worry. You cannot fit down the drain, okay? I'm gonna teach you so you can do it all yourself and you don't need my help. This is a loofah. Let me show you how it works. I was thinking, do you want to try the shower tonight? I can turn it on and I can show you how you can draw pictures on the door. Should we draw?
This rainy day is temporary. The contrast is why we got 'em. The sun shining through is just a cloud away. So what you blown up?
People often ask me where I got the idea for fancy baths. Did it just come to me? Did I just think this would be something girls would enjoy? But honestly, it came out of desperation. I had a teen girl come to me from some pretty awful circumstances, and she had been with me a few days and had taken a shower each night, but really the water would just run for 5 minutes, and then there'd be dry towels and dry washcloths, and she continued to smell really bad. And so I knew that she wasn't actually taking a shower. So one night I had this idea of creating this really calm environment with bath bombs and candles and offering her to take a bath instead of a shower. After giving her some privacy, she stayed in that bath for almost 2 hours. I didn't know it at the time, but she had some physical wounds that weren't visible to the eye, and a bath helped ease the pain. So I owe fancy baths to her for teaching me something that has helped heal many, many other kids. Buckle up with me for this one. So in 2016, Allegheny County in Pennsylvania began using this screening tool for child neglect calls as they came in. So basically, someone would call in and say, I think a child is being neglected. The person taking the call would put the information into the computer, and an algorithm would spit out a risk score between 1 and 20, and it would help the social workers determine what and who needed to be investigated. With tens of thousands of calls each year, this was designed to not only help reduce the number of visits that a social worker was having to do and assessments they were having to do, but it was also designed to take the human factor out, right? If we take human bias out of it, it should make it more fair, and it should catch the high-risk cases quickly and then kind of not attend to the lower risk cases. But a report came out this week from Carnegie Mellon that found that, you guessed it, the algorithm is racist. The study found that if a social worker just relied on the tool and the algorithm, that 2/3 of the calls about Black children would be a mandatory investigation, as opposed to about half of the calls for all the other children. And that's because, as my husband says, an algorithm is only as good as the data you put in it. And in fact, the data that this algorithm is using is not just the information from the call, but it's also things like Medicaid numbers, mental health records, substance abuse history, jail and probation records. When this was brought up to the county officials, they were like, okay, but a social worker can override the algorithm and investigate still, so it's not that big a deal. Now, it's important to note that specifically in this county, the algorithm did not necessarily determine the investigations because social workers were still involved, and social workers overruled a lot of the findings from the algorithm, so those numbers did not reflect actual investigations. This study should still raise some red flags, especially because 26 other states are looking at similar algorithm tools, and in fact, 11 of those states have already started using some kind of algorithm tool in the process, whether that's for investigations, removals, or reunifications. So what do you think? Is this helping by removing the human bias, or do you feel like there may be some social workers or departments that solely rely on the data and that could become a problem?
I know some people, they would die for me. We run together, they're my family. When I get up, they gon' be high with me. I'll say forever, my family. Family. I'll say forever, my family.
I once had an 11-year-old girl who'd been with me for a few nights, and so we went out to eat, and she accidentally called me Mom, and she brushed it off and said, "Oh, don't think anything of it. I call my teachers Mom too. It's just a phrase I use." And I knew that her mom was no longer in her life, and so I just kind of said, "Oh, it's no problem, no worries." Later that night, we were walking back, and she said, "Hey, can I hold your hand and we could just pretend to be mother and daughter for a little while?" And I said, "Of course." And she called me Mom over and over and over again and introduced me as Mom to every stranger we came across. And instead of heartwarming, I found this moment to be heartbreaking because I can't imagine asking a stranger to just play the role of mom as if that's something that is just pretend. And it reminded me that inside all of us, this ache for a loving mother never truly goes away. What the hell, foster care? One of my kids needed her paperwork. She aged out back in December, and she needed the court papers that said that she's no longer a ward of the state and that her case was closed and all that. And so I said, well, why don't you start with your GAL, who is her lawyer, who was paid for by the state during her time in foster care. And I said, start there, and if that doesn't work, you can always go to the court and ask for the paperwork. And so she emailed her GAL asking if he happened to have the paperwork, and this is what he sent her. Pause to read. So she called the courts. Her paperwork's available for $5. $5. So when I talk about the need for advocates in the system, this is the kind of stuff I talk about. So the ones that can help find resources that aren't dicks.
Why 3 boys? That's creepy. Guys, come on. Seriously. We're missing a lot of information. First thing is disproportionate representation. In the foster care community, boys outrepresent girls by a long shot. Boys outrepresent girls in congregate care, which is essentially homeless shelters with 24/7 supervision for kids in foster care without placement. Boys are more likely to have had instances with the juvenile justice system, and therefore families are not willing to take boys. The age in which people will take a girl is much higher than the age in which people are willing to accept placement of a boy. When I first became licensed to foster or adopt children through the state system, I was 25 years old. We had a room prepared for both boys and girls. It just so happened that we got a boy placement as an emergency. Once the foster adoption workers saw that we were willing to take teenage boys, it was a safe environment, and the boys were doing well, the phone calls started rolling in. Therefore, boys. Also, fun fact, now that I have a bigger house and separate rooms for boys and girls, I have 3 girls as well. We just don't show them.
So a couple of days ago, I told you guys about the guardian ad litem who had been a jerk to one of my former foster kids while she was trying to apply for a grant to get a deposit for an apartment. She was working really hard trying to get her deposit, and so a lot of people reached out and were like, how can we help her? You know, can I pay for her, you know, paperwork at the court, that sort of thing. And so I shared the GoFundMe that she had set up, just not knowing if anybody would respond to it. Just thought, hey, I'm going to share this. It's not my fundraiser, it's hers, but she's trying to get the $2,000 for a deposit. So she needed $2,000 for her deposit. She could pay the rent because she's working, but she doesn't have credit because she's in foster care. So she needed $2,000. This is what we have as of this morning. Y'all just up and decided to change a young woman's life yesterday. People are so good. They really are. I had a preteen boy come to me in an emergency situation, and he had actually saved himself because he had run to a police station to get some help and to help him get out of the situation he was in. So I fed him dinner, and during dinner he looks at me and says, "So am I living with you now?" I said, "You're just staying with me tonight because they've got some things to figure out about what happens next." His body got very still and his eyes got very big. And he said, "Are they going to send me back?" And because you don't lie in foster care, I instead told him, you know, there's a lot of people who really care about you and want to keep you safe, including me. And he paused, and then he pulled out of his pocket a folded sheet of paper. And he said, "Can I have your phone number then?" And when he opened up the paper, I saw there was one other name and phone number on the piece of paper. It was the police officer who had first seen him when he came for help. So I added my name to the list of people he would be safe with.
It's really fucking selfish and really fucking lost, but someone loved me. Someone fucking loved me.
This was something I did not know going into foster care until it actually happened to me, and I heard these stories over and over and over again that yes, teenagers in foster care do leave really good families. People, you know, I've seen on this app say things like, "Oh, well, if they run away or if they want to leave, it's for a reason." No, they leave really good foster families all the time, and they don't know the reason, right? I was told this just isn't for me, talking about like living in a family. And it's because of that overwhelming love and acceptance. If you've not experienced that, if you're not used to that, it's too much. It's too much for you, and it hurts. And so oftentimes it's easier to just run away and, you know, not even risk them possibly hurting me. So this is pretty common, unfortunately.
Morning, late everybody. This won't take more than just a few seconds. We are rolling out a new plan. We are no longer licensing teen foster parents under the age of 40. Well, yes, I know we're facing a home shortage, but Someone on the internet thinks it's weird to license young foster parents, therefore we've just decided that it's best that they all stay homeless.
Story on Instagram today about the adultification of Black children, and I thought I'd share it with you guys too.
Who's number one?
Jay-Z.
No, that's cool. It's okay. That's
Drake
okay.
number 3.
That's okay. I thought Drake was gonna be number one.
M's not even on the list.
Eminem? Who else was on the list?
Gooch.
Gucci who? Gucci Mane? Was on the list and Eminem went on the list?
Hey guys, I get a lot of questions asking about the financial sides of fostering or adoption through the state. And while I would love to get into all the aspects of my finances, that is not going to apply to enough people to actually discuss on a public forum. So I will say that I don't make a whole lot of money. My husband and I both do work, and I looked up the state income for Texas, and I don't make that. Even my husband doesn't make that, but combined we're pretty solid. So I do want to give y'all some of the financial information so that you can make an informed decision for your family if fostering or adoption through the state is the right fit for you. The first thing is in the state of Texas, there are no income requirements. The only requirement is that you are able to pay your bills every month and that you have a little bit of a padding left over. This will be determined through your pay stubs, through 2 months worth of consecutive bank statements, or your last year's tax return. They will look at this in the licensing process and they will determine whether or not you have the flexibility in your budget for another child. The next portion of this question I get asked all the time is it expensive to foster or adopt through the state? No. In the state of Texas, it is free to foster children, and for the most part, it is free to adopt a child who is waiting through the state-funded program. These children often get benefits until the age of 18 or sometimes 21, depending on the age in which they were adopted. This includes a monthly stipend for their care. This includes Medicaid for their health coverage, and in the state of Texas, we also have what's called the tuition waiver for students who were adopted or who aged out of foster care, and they get to go to college or a state technical program for free. This is amazing. We love it. We utilize it. My kids are currently in college courses, so that is awesome because I could never pay for that. I don't know how anyone could say, oh yeah, by the way, here's a 16-year-old and they're going to college in 2 years. Please make sure you have a college fund for them, because when I was 25 and I met my 16-year-old, I definitely did not have a college fund prepared for my child. I hope this answers some questions for you guys, and I hope that you were able to tolerate my working on the curly girl method hair. First week, thought my hair was straight. Turns out it's really not. So I'm about to get ready for work, and I will see you guys later.
are a few of the most commonly prescribed medications given to my kids in foster care.
2 of the medications that she mentioned are antipsychotics, and we know that children in foster care are 5 times more likely to be prescribed an antipsychotic than those who aren't, with BIPOC children being significantly overrepresented. Unfortunately, many psychiatrists label these children as oppositional or attention-seeking or generally dysregulated and give them too much or inappropriate medications. But you know what all foster children have in common? Some degree of trauma. So let's appropriately and equitably treat their trauma.
Hey, so yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. Some of the newer DCS offices that have been like remodeled and stuff have couches and stuff in them. Sometimes kids are sleeping on or under conference tables. Sometimes kids are just spread out on the floor. Sometimes they're in uncomfy chairs and other sort of places like that, wherever they can find a place to sleep. That's where they're sleeping when they're at the DCS office. One county here, the DCS office is actually full, so they have converted a vacation Bible school in a local church into like just lined cots. It sucks, but and as for who watches them, there's always an on-call caseworker. That's who is there with the kiddos now. They have employees that have to stay away from their families and have to stay at the office with them. Is the office normally open 24 hours? No. The offices usually have to go like 9 to 5 hours, but if they have kids in the office, there has to be employees stay to help take care of them, and they rely a lot on volunteers to run and pick up like meals and other sort of stuff for the kids. So it sucks. Yeah.
I've decided I'm done saying that the foster care system is broken, because it's not broken. It functions exactly the way it was designed to function, because lawmakers and laws for years have cut back on social services. They've cut back on mental health. They've cut back on housing. They have allowed drugs and prescriptions to run rampant and destroy families. And so we watch families and those in poverty go off a cliff, and then we take their children from them. And then we put them into a system that is designed to break them. And we put them into for-profit facilities, at least in my state, where we make money off of offering them fewer services. So we take children, we return them to their families broken, or we don't return them at all, and we let them age out. 20,000 of them age out every year, and half of them are homeless within a year. And so we age them out, or we break them, or leave them with mental health problems. And then we wonder why they then go on to struggle in poverty and not get a job and not get an education and have mental health problems and struggle to succeed. And then we decide that that's not enough, so we lock them up for crimes that they commit due to the mental health and the poverty and the lack of. And we lock them up into a prison where, in my state, they're for profit too. So we can make money off of you for being a prisoner. But before you even get to jail, we're going to take your kids away from you. And so we're going to put them back into that same cycle. And it's when you start to realize that we're taking these children not to save them necessarily, but to use them as commodities. And it starts to really hit you that this system is designed to be oppressive. It is designed to ruin lives. It is designed to not let you succeed in any way, either in relationships, in your career, or in your life. And it's when you start to realize that this system is oppressive. It's not broken. It's not broken. It's just oppressive. That's when we start to change things.
Okay, so it's May, which means it is officially Foster Care Awareness Month. All month long, I'm going to be just making videos about some facts about foster care for anyone who may be interested in becoming a foster parent or helping out with the system in any way. So foster care fact number 1 is that there is about 420,000 kids in care in the U.S. and there's only about 215,000 foster homes. There's also about 87,000 relative care homes as well. So obviously we have more kids than homes to care for them, which is why the need for foster homes is so great right now. You do not need to be a perfect parent to be a foster parent. One of the most important things is you need to be able to love and care for a child with trauma. Follow for more facts.
Sensational.
Super important topic of conversation today. The first thing is, there is no such thing as foster to adoption. Here's why. If you take a child with the hope and intent that that child never returns to their biological family, you are not in a foster care type situation. You are intentionally trying to take a child from their biological family. We call this kidnapping. Let's not be those people. Foster care is for the safe and healthy reunification of children with their biological or first families when it is acceptable and advisable. But Casey, you've adopted through foster care. Yes, here's the difference. It's not foster to adopt. It's called adoption through foster care. Basically, that's just a fancy way to say that it's a state-funded program to adopt kids whose parental rights have already been terminated through the foster care system. This means that the parents have been given an opportunity to work their services and be reunified with their children, but for one reason or another, this didn't happen. It happens a lot, unfortunately. Currently, there are over 117,000 children waiting for forever families through the state-funded adoption programs.
Hi, my name is Mandy. I'm a foster and adoptive mom of 5 kids. Here they are. There's also a baby in there. That's my granddaughter, Kyrie. There she is, right there. I always want to make TikToks, but I never really know what to say. I adopted my kids when they were 15 and 16 and maybe 12 and 9. It's been so long. I don't remember their exact ages when we got them finally adopted. But I was thinking about a fun story. There's a lot of stories that aren't so fun, but this was a fun one. My daughter, her first night in my house, came to me and was like, I want to show you something. She was 13 and I was like, oh God. I was so scared it was going to be something bad. Because I think with teenagers, like, you just assume the worst. Fostering teenagers is kind of like, ooh. But what she pulled out was a crochet needle and yarn. And as someone who is crafty, my heart melted. That's the best thing about fostering teenagers, is that you can relate on really cool stuff that actually interests you. They can also tell you what they need and want. And you can help make a kid's dream come true.
Side of foster care that nobody talks about. Oh, I should have put myself to bed. I should have put myself to bed. No hate at all to you, ma'am, and your 300 and something thousand followers. But that is the side of foster care that people talk about. That is 100% the side of foster care that people won't shut up about. How dangerous and troubled these children are, and it's all their first family's fault, and how we're saviors. We as foster parents do not need to plaster the aftermath of what these children have been through on the internet for sympathy. It's not educational. In the 2.5 seconds that I spent in your comment section, I now know what state you live in, what gender your foster child is, and how old they are. That is too much information for me, a stranger on the internet, to have about a foster child. Please rethink this.
Of course not. Of course $20,000 is not going to raise a child from birth to 18. But it may relieve a little bit of that financial pressure that makes a woman choose to place her child for adoption rather than choosing to parent. So $20,000 could pay rent for a year. $20,000 could buy a car and, food and a lot of other necessities that she thinks that maybe having a baby she wouldn't be able to do. So that's all I'm saying, right? There's a myriad of reasons why a birth parent would choose adoption. Lots of different reasons, and it's their personal choice at the end of the day. All I'm saying is I wish as a country money would be removed as one of those issues, that no one would have to give up their child because they're afraid of not being able to afford them. Not parent them, afford them.
Hey, so get this question a lot. I'm not sure if you meant it out of hate or if you meant it out of genuine curiosity. So I'm just going to address it with a little grace and think you meant well. We are in the state of Tennessee. This is all public record. In Tennessee, we only take teenagers because there's a higher need for them. I believe it's $30.06 a day. But let me break it down for you. We make no profit off of our kids. My husband and I have done the numbers, and we actually take a loss to have these kids. Yeah, sure, if you piled kids into your house, treated them like crap, didn't do anything extra with them, you could make a profit off foster kids. But if you do it right, there's no profit. Our kids have full tummies. Our kids are in extracurriculars. We take them to all of their therapies, all of their doctor's appointments. If one of my teens texts me an Amazon link of something they want, it's ordered. We give them above and beyond what we're required to on their allowance. If one of my teens says, hey, I'm going to the movies with a friend, I don't require them to dip into their allowance for it. I hand them a 20. If they say we're going to do this and this and this, I'll be like, okay, well, how much do you need? We also don't make our teens have jobs. We want them to focus on their school, and we take teen moms, so we want them to focus on being a mom. And I try to do a green screen, and I'm just not that great at TikTok. But yeah, if you Google foster care rates in your state, you will see exactly what foster parents make. But yeah, if you do it right, there's no profit.
Our foster kid uses the air raid sound for an alarm, and the other day he was having a dream that he was in an air raid when his alarm was going off. We had to shake his bed to wake him up, which he requested as a wake up. But that made him dream that he was falling out of a helicopter. So, kid's hard to wake up.
Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for the love that you guys have poured into my family and our kiddos. These are 8 Amazon boxes full of goodies, full of love for our babies. This is me opening all of them and trying so hard not to cry in front of all of you. But please know that I literally bawled getting all of these. I bawled throughout this, and I bawled after this, and I'm crying now too. I also left the audio of our kids freaking out the entire time I opened all of these packages for all of the gifts that you guys sent to them, to our Miss M and her baby girl that we'll be getting to her at her new home.
Mommy.
Thank you. From my entire family to yours, thank you to anyone who sent anonymously, to Casey Mandernock who sent, to Christina Parrish who sent. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my butt, which is still bigger than my heart.
Let me show you everything that we're including in our teen foster care bags. We started with a drawstring bag with a zipper pocket. We felt this could be pretty versatile. We wanted to make sure each kid had a water bottle, but these were generic, so we decided to add some stickers for each kid. Will I be overthinking the variety in each bag? Yes, I will. We also have personal hygiene kits. We have a male version and a female version, and we're trying to split this 50-50. We also have period products, and we are going to make sure these go in the female bags, but also find a way to be trans-friendly. The teens will also get 2 notebooks and 2 pens. And because technology is big with teens, we got a charging cord and a charging block along with a fidget toy. And these are actually a lot of fun to play with, highly recommend. They'll also receive a variety of snacks and of course gum. Throwing in some chapstick and some cozy socks because I know Brittany at Foster the Teens does this as well. Each teen will also get a $25 gift card to use on whatever they wish. We've updated the Amazon wish list for just the items we need, and we hope you'll help us out.
Hey everybody, had a question today and it says, is 24 too young to foster teenagers? I wanted to address this and the first answer is no. I have also polled some other people around my house, mostly because it's a snow day, and we have this pie chart as a visual representation for y'all. The yellow right here is no, you're not too young. The orange is no, you're not too young. The red, no, you're not too young. The pink, you're not too young. And the blue is just my favorite color. You're still not too young.
Still falling for you. Still falling for you. And just like that, all I breathe, all I feel, you are all for me. I'm in, and just like that, oh. Here you go again, you say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down? Which
foster loves have moved on, and a lot of you had questions and comments like this, so I wanted to talk about it. So these girls were only ever an emergency placement in our home, so unfortunately it was pretty much always going to be a short-term placement, which in this case was less than a week. I think it was 6 days total. So long story short, and without giving away any of their story, they didn't have housing last week, literally nowhere to go. They lived on the streets one of the nights, so it was put out into our area that they needed a bed for at least a night or a couple of nights, and leading into a holiday, most foster facilities are closed down, shut down, whatever for the holiday, so most people are off, so they knew they needed at least at minimum a couple of nights in the weekend through the holiday, which is an emergency placement. So it was put out there, all the shelters were full. No families stepped forward and said, hey, we have a bed, or hey, we have a bedroom, hey, we can help. Nobody stepped forward. There's lots, that is a completely different video I could go into. There's just not enough homes. There's a lot that could be said about that, so I'm not going to speak on that. But a worker that we've worked with for years messaged 3 different families that she thought could maybe help in this scenario. I read it. Did not respond immediately. I thought about it for a few hours, and went ahead and emailed and said, hey, has anyone responded? She told me not a soul, and so I told her yes, because I couldn't in good conscience sleep knowing that an 18-year-old and her 3-month-old daughter did not have a warm bed, did not have a roof over their heads, did not have the things that they needed. So that's more or less the story. And the reason I didn't say yes initially is because we actually have 6 other children. We have 4 adopted children through foster care, and we have 2 more foster loves that have been with us for almost a year. So we already have 6 children in our home already, and that is why she was only ever really an emergency placement. Now, after meeting both of them and loving on them for a couple of days, we actually told them that we would love to be a longer term placement for them despite having so many children. So a home opened up
in her area that has less children, so can give her and her daughter more attention, more focus, without having other kiddos in their care as well. So it's just made more sense for her, and it was a better fit for her and her daughter's needs long term.
Mom, I'm about to call these people about my light bill to see why it's so high. What I'm supposed to say when they pick up? Mom, on this bottle of Tylenol, it's saying I'm supposed to take 2. How many I'm supposed to take? Mom, they want me to verify my permanent address. What's a permanent address? When you do your eggs, do you just crack them on the skillet, or do you stir them up and put your salt and pepper in a bowl and stuff? Because I want mine to taste like yours.
Every teen gets new underwear, new socks, bras, and PJs, all for free.
How about we celebrate some good things happening in foster care right now? Mississippi is about to join a bunch of other states in waiving college tuition fees for foster youth. Oh look, Colorado is going to do the same. There's some great work happening in New Mexico to keep native foster children with their tribe. I love this one. An organization in Michigan is actually creating an affordable apartment complex for kids who are aging out of foster care. Housing is one of the biggest barriers after aging out. And Oklahoma actually has made some progress in case workloads, in reducing the number of kids who are using shelters, and in creating better continuum of care to support families. This is great, great news. And if you live in one of those states, please send an email to your representative and let them know that you're watching and paying attention to what they're doing to improve foster care.